This is The Long Road to Publishing, the podcast where we hear from authors who have traveled a long and bumpy road to publishing their books. Whether you're just starting out on your own writing and publishing journey, or if you're all too aware of the many possible detours along the way, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Eva Langston, author, writing instructor, and creator of Eva's newsletter for writers on Substack. Thank you so much for coming along on the ride. Whenever I have a guest on the show, I Google them ahead of time, obviously, to get a sense of their publishing journey. And I have to admit, when I was researching today's guest, Karin Gillespie, I was a bit confused because here was one of her novels, Bet Your Bottom Dollar, published by Simon & Schuster. But then here it was again with a different cover, published by Henry Press. And then here it was again with, I gotta say, a rather amateur-looking cover, published by something called What If Press. So I was like, what the heck is going on? Of course, I had to just talk to Karin and get the full story, and boy, is it a doozy. Not just the saga of her Bottom Dollar Girls series, but her entire publishing career has been a fascinating roller coaster ride. First of all, Karin has had 5 literary agents. That's right, 5. She debuted as a lead title with a Big 5 publisher, then published with a small press, and now she has tried the self-publishing route as well. She is so incredibly knowledgeable about the changing landscape of the publishing industry, and her info-packed Substack called Pitch Your Novel is a must for writers. Seriously, do yourself a favor and just subscribe immediately. You will not regret it. Karin's latest novel is called The Pitch Queen, but I like to think of Karin herself as the Pitch Queen because she is so good at pitching books, both her own and other people's, and she has lots of advice for writers who are trying to catch the attention of agents, editors, or readers. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. A quick reminder to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. This is still a relatively new show, so I can use all the help I can get with spreading the word to people who might not know about it yet. So feel free to give The Long Road to Publishing a shout out on social media or just talk to people about it in real life. Also, a reminder that all of Karin's books and the books we mention in our conversation can be found on my bookshop shop, the link to which is in the show notes. And now, on with the episode, which I'm calling 5 Agents and the Pitch Queen. Karin Gillespie is the author of 9 novels and has an MFA in creative writing from Converse College. She's a former book columnist for the Augusta Chronicle, a former humor columnist for the Augusta Magazine, and a recipient of a 2016 Georgia Author of the Year Award. She's also a retired writing professor. Her nonfiction work has appeared in the New York Times, Washington Post, and Writer magazine, and she also has a popular Substack called Pitch Your Novel. Her most recent novel is The Pitch Queen, a novel set in the publishing industry and described as if Yellowface and book lovers had a baby. So welcome to the show, Karin.
Oh, thanks for having me, Eva.
Super thrilled you're here. We're going to talk about your Substack in a minute, which I'm a big fan of, but I also just read your latest novel, The Pitch Queen. I finished it in like 2 days. I absolutely devoured it. I loved it. I feel like anybody listening to this podcast should read that book because I'm sure you're the same as me. I will read any novel set with like in the publishing industry or with a writer as the main character. I love it. So I guess my question for you there, because it does seem like it's a little bit more book lovers than Yellowface. It's not really a thriller. When you are forced to give it a genre or put it in a genre category, what would you put The Pitch Queen in?
Well, definitely women's fiction. And the reason I compared it to Yellow Face is because it's satire. I mean,
Right. Yes.
the
Yeah.
satire
Yes.
on publishing, although also very true in many ways. So,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, I was definitely like, "Ooh, she's getting some digs in here at the publishing industry," and I love it. But it was that, obviously you're the main character in The Pitch Queen is an agent, and she's obviously very like satirical in your portrayal of her. But there were some things that I was like, we're hinting at some truths here for sure. Well, anyway, I love the novel. I'm gonna have to go read all your other novels now. And I'm also a huge fan of your Substack, which is called Pitch Your Novel. So do you want to pitch your Substack to the listeners? What can they find there?
So I've been in publishing for over 20 years. And I saw a shift a few years ago. Editors were ghosting and subs were taking a year or more. Querying was taking forever, and I wanted to investigate that. And so the Substack was basically me going, what is going on? What kind of novels are selling and why are things taking so long? I wanted to really dig in and demystify publishing. And that is what I try to do in Pitch Your Novel, give you the best and most current information that will help you with publishing. So I listen to podcasts like yours and I read so many articles and I dig into Publishers Marketplace because I want people to have the best information. It is so hard these days. And if you don't know the business, it is even harder.
I'm really glad to hear you say that you noticed the shift too, because, I've been at this for a very long time too. And I remember my first experience with querying agents was, I think, back in like 2013 or 2012 even. And I got responses, I got requests, it, it did feel a little bit easier back then. And I think, for a variety of reasons, we get so much more ghosting now, so much more yeah, so much more to kind of parse through. One of my favorite things you do in the Substack is you look at like here are the deals that are being made, and you really analyze like, well, here's what's getting attention, here's what editors are looking for, and what's selling. And I think even though sure we're not supposed to try to write to the market, like if you want to be traditionally published or have any success in publishing, like you do have to have that in your mind at some point in the process, I think.
Writers were beating themselves up saying, I'm just not good enough, or I don't have what it takes. And I wanted them to understand that it is so trend driven and takes so long and it's not them. They really are
Hmm.
hard on themselves. I mean, obviously, there are some people that need to get more experience and so on, but good writers are being turned down all the time. So
Yes. Yeah, that is a very good point. And well, that's one of the reasons why I started this podcast too, was because, not only did it take me 90 queries to get my second agent, I'm on agent number two. So anybody who's saying like, oh, I sent out 20 queries and I guess I'm not good enough, to your point, like it takes a while. But then also having novels not sell and try not to take that personally and be like, oh, look, this happens to everyone. A lot of it is about timing and trends, and it's not about how good my book is.
and luck
And
and
luck,
is
yeah.
there a space on the list and all of that kind of thing.
Right, right.
It's just, and that's why you have to keep going because persistence, as I'm sure you know, is in your favor and not.
Yeah. Okay. I'm so interested. You've been doing this for so long. You've written and published so many novels in a variety of different ways. So let's get into your whole journey. Do you feel like you were one of those kids who always wanted to be a writer? And then my other question that I always ask with this is, when did you really get serious about I'm going to write books and get them published?
I am a later writer. I acting was my thing, but then when I became a mother, I couldn't do that anymore. So I really thought about it and I said, well, you really love to read, so why not try writing? And
Hmm.
it's like creating characters as well. And so I did, and I really enjoyed it. And so I guess it was when I was around 25 or something like that. Oh, and then I got my heart broken and I wrote this terrible trunk novel. It was my first
Uh-huh.
novel. And I thought it was great. So I went to a writers conference expecting to be discovered. That's just so naive. I can't believe it when I think about it. But
Yeah, yeah.
but there I went to this panel that said Southern fiction is hot. And I was so inspired by that panel. I went home. We went back to the hotel room, skipped the mixer, and started writing. But yeah, so it was my first writing conference, and that trunk novel kind of ignited me. And I guess that was when
Okay.
I was in my, it was late. I was almost 40. So yeah.
When you published your first novel, you were almost
No, when
40?
I went to that writers conference, I
Oh,
think,
when you went to the writers' conference. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So Yeah. So no, I was in my early 40s when my first novel.
I'm curious, what type of acting did you do?
Just, community theater, college theater and all that.
Yeah.
People would say, "Oh, you can't do anything with that." And of course, I believed them. And so I picked something even almost as challenging and
Right.
impractical, writing, right? So,
A lot of people, you are definitely not the first person to have an acting background, myself included. And I do think
really?
there's a lot, yeah. And I think there's a big overlap because just like you said, of like creating characters and, I mean, so many writers will have all this backstory for their character that never makes it into the novel, just like actors do kind of all that internal work. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking when you said about, oh, the like naivete of going to this writers conference. I remember going to a writers conference. I was probably about 25 and signing up for an agent meeting, and I had written like 50 pages of a novel that I hadn't even finished yet. And it was one of these things where they would read part of it and give you feedback. And I'm like, so what do you think? And she's like, yeah, great, finish it. And I was kind of like, what was I expecting her to do or say? When I look back on that, I'm like, what was I doing meeting with an agent and I hadn't even finished a manuscript? But, we all have to learn somehow, I guess.
Well, right. And back then, I mean, I'm really going to be dating myself because it was in the early aughts, when this,
Hmm.
and there wasn't a lot of information out there on
Yeah, that's
how
true.
all this worked and everything. So, so I guess they were probably mostly used to clueless writers,
Right.
more
Yeah.
tolerant.
Yeah. I mean, for better or worse, there is a lot more information out there now.
Yeah.
So that's true.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So you went to this conference. You were like, ooh, Southern writing is hot. And you're from Georgia, right? So
I am Savannah.
yes, perfect. So yeah. So then you were like, okay, great. I'm gonna write novels and get them published. So tell me about what happened next.
Yeah, that and so inspired me, Writers Conference, so inspired me that I decided I was going to get a critique group, which really helped me. And
Hmm.
we met and I started writing this novel. Then I took about 25 pages to another writers conference and an author evaluated those pages and said, "You really have something here." And so, what I want you to do is if you finish this novel in a year, I will hook you up with my agent. And I was like, yes, because I
Uh-huh.
think everybody thinks, oh, you got to have an inside track. So I did that. I was determined to take advantage of this connection. And I finished the novel in a year and I emailed him and he gave me the name of his agent and I queried him. And of course, I got rejected, which he was a literary writer, okay? And I didn't understand that agents specialize in different types of genres and everything. So of course he rejected me. But so I started querying some more. And I mean it was really easy for me at this point. An agent, I think maybe the third agent I queried
Oh,
was a
wow.
new agent, okay? She's very powerful now, but her name was Jenny Bent. And
Oh, I've
she,
definitely heard of her.
yeah,
I
so
probably
she,
queried her back in the day.
yeah, she's great. She's great. But anyway, so she calls me at work, which to me that was like, oh my gosh, it was like surreal and said, send me the whole thing, all right? But she was very new at this time. And then she would give me these updates like, I'm at page 50 and I'm loving it. I'm at page 100 and I'm loving it even more. And then they stopped. you
Oh
know?
no.
And finally she said, you're really going to have to revise this. If you revise it, I will take another look. So I did. I revised it and I sent it back to her, and she was still a little bit on the fence. And knowing what I know now, I'm so embarrassed what I did, but I was like kind of begging. I
Mm.
was like, please, I'll be a good author. And it worked. She did send it out, and it was so different then. She sent it out to like 20 something editors. We heard back from everyone in 2 weeks.
Oh
I
my
thought that's
gosh.
how it worked. Yeah.
Wow, that is very different than it is now.
I know.
Yeah.
And um and they all rejected us. Okay.
But at least
So
you knew where you stood right away.
yeah, right, except for one. Except for one. and it was an editor from Simon and Schuster, and she wanted to call me at work. And so we talked about the novel, and she said, "Have you ever considered it being a series?" And of course, I didn't even, I mean, that was not in my head at all. I don't think that way. But of course, I said I would be glad to look at that. And we talked it through, and I did revisions for, I think, maybe 2 or 3 months, and no promises, And I sent it
Oh, so this was kind of you're doing revisions, but there's no deal
right. It's
yet.
called
Yeah.
R&R, revision and
Hmm.
resubmit, and there is no guarantees there. But
Hmm.
it was our only fish, so
Right.
obviously I did it, right?
Yeah.
And so I revised and I sent it back to her. And at the time I was teaching. I taught behavior disordered kids. It was a really tough job, and it was a really tough day. I came home, the phone rang, landline, and it was my agent. And she said, two-book deal from Simon and Schuster. And I will never forget
Wow.
that day. I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, and that was another naive thing about me. Oh, you can quit your day job now that you have a book deal. Things ended up, well, my agent managed my expectations. She said, we were rejected so many times. It's a quiet novel. Just that's what you should expect. Nothing, no fanfare or anything like that. And I was fine with that because, when you get published, that's all you care about is you get published. You don't care how it's going to be published or anything like that. But then I got to start Kirkus, and and that made the buyer at Barnes and Noble, she decided to read it. And that's when everything started to
Ah.
snowball. And I got the dream publication experience. I had a 10 city tour. They sent me to New York to meet all the key buyers. They did all these ads when they used to do these kind of things, like in USA Today, a full page ad,
Yeah.
all the bells and whistles. I was the lead title for the Simon and Schuster that season or whatever. So it was really an exciting publication experience.
Yeah. What was the book?
It was called Bet Your Bottom Dollar. It was
Ah,
a
okay.
Southern fiction humor. All right.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, that's also just so interesting that it's like it got rejected, rejected, rejected. This one editor is like, I don't know, but maybe if you revise, and then it ends up being the lead title and you end up getting a two-book deal. Was the second book a sequel?
Yes, it was. It was a sequel. It was a series. And it was there were three in the series. There ended up being three in the series. And for each one, the support of the publisher was incredible. Tours and all of that kind of thing. So it was, but I'm going to say that this is this kind of experience. It's just luck. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. That was like my second novel, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like I felt like I was stumbling into all of this. There was no way I could have gamed it or anything like that.
Right. And then like you said, I mean, I'm sure this could still happen now, but things at least back then things seemed to move a little bit more quickly at
Oh
least.
yeah.
Although my agent did tell me that the rejections tend to come in faster than so she's always like, don't worry if we get a lot of rejections right away, because the rejections come first. But in my case, the rejections come first and then more rejections come later. So
Well, I've been there too, so
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so you had three books come out with Simon and Schuster, all this humorous Southern fiction. And I will say, having read Pitch Queen, you write great humor. It's
Well,
it's so
thank
fun.
you.
So then, yeah, so you were kind of like, okay, I'm an author now. This is my life. And what happened after that?
Well, I felt very lucky because for like 5 years I made a living as an author, and I assumed that's what would continue, and it was a good living, all right,
Yeah.
wasn't. And then I was asked to co-write a novel for a New York Times number one New York Times bestseller. Her name is Jill Connor Brown, and she only wrote nonfiction. And so I
Hmm.
was asked to write a novel. They wanted to expand her brand, co-write it. And
Interesting.
it was part of a $2 million deal. Not for me, for her. It wasn't, it didn't perform the way they expected. And I think that kind of put a stain on me, really, for a
Mm.
while. And it certainly, it put a stain on my editor. She lost her job. So she was my
Oh, wow.
champion. there at Simon and Schuster. So at that point, I'm like, oh, I don't know how to go forward. And so I started writing this other novel, and my agent and I parted ways. I think again, this failed novel collaboration contributed, and I had this other novel, and I got a new agent, and I just couldn't. She kept giving me notes. I couldn't fix it. And
Mm.
basically, I realized I did not have the chops that I needed. I had just written these novels on fumes almost. This is terrible to admit after all of this, but that's the way I felt. So I went and got my MFA,
Oh, interesting.
and yeah.
Okay.
Now, that did not actually teach me what I needed to know because it's more on the sentence level. But what I did was I wrote my thesis paper on storytelling. And at that time, there really weren't storytelling books for novelists. Like Save the Cat for Novelists, that was not in existence. So you really did have to turn to screenwriting. I must
Yeah.
have read 10 of them. And I really learned storytelling. That was the problem. My agent, the second agent, I've had five,
Oh,
which
wow. I think I did know that. I did know that. Yeah.
I wrote a Substack about it.
Yeah.
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 But she kept saying, there's storytelling issues. And I didn't even know. I was like, what does she mean? She keeps saying it's episodic. Okay. So
Hmm.
anyway, so I learned storytelling. I felt so bad with that agent that I actually parted ways with her saying, I'm just sorry. I feel like a failure. I felt like a failure. So I wrote this novel for my MFA program, okay, using those storytelling
Mm.
techniques. And at the end of the semester, we all do readings. And I was reading my novel, and no one laughed. Okay, no one. And I thought, because I was trying to please and write in the way they wanted me to write, humor is
Yeah.
not always accepted well in MFA programs. So I took, I think, 4 weeks to fix it, put my voice and humor back into it, and I sent it out, queried, and I got 5 agent offers.
Yeah. There's so much that I'm thinking while you were talking. I mean, one thing is I do feel like there's this sense that, oh, if you read as a kid, you'll just know how to write a story. It'll
Right.
just happen. But it's funny because so I have two young children and we've been reading kind of longer books to them lately, Mary Poppins, Alice in Wonderland. You start realizing all of these books that used to get published that we read as kids, they're totally episodic. It's like I mean, but yeah, I so first of all, it makes sense that like you're like, oh, this is a story, isn't it? Why is it not? But yeah, I think we don't often read with that like, wait a minute, what is the author doing here to kind of like build the tension to get to a satisfying climax to, have this conclusion that feels earned. Like we're not thinking about it like that. So then when we try to write, unless we're being deliberate and kind of learning about storytelling techniques, it doesn't always come out in a satisfying story.
I had no intention, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
about what I wanted to accomplish. I was a total pantser. I mean, total. But that changed everything for me. And I'm so grateful, everything
Yeah.
that happens to you, it always feels like, oh, I'm so grateful I learned, because I read novels all the time that are episodic, and I'm like,
Hmm.
hello. I'm
Right.
so picky. I am so picky. But the sad thing, okay, so I had to pick an agent,
Hmm.
of the five, and it was really nerve-wracking. It sounds fun and great, but it's not, all right.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Because you're like, what if I pick the wrong person and then I can't really go back?
Oh yeah, and a really powerful agent was one of them, all right? But when we had our phone call, she scared me.
Yeah, yeah.
She scared me crazy. So I was like, but I really should go with her. But I couldn't. I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I actually picked someone that wasn't very experienced and so on. And that novel did not sell. I mean, it went on sub and it didn't sell. I thought for sure
Mm.
it was a shoo-in, all these people wanted it and everything. But it is possible too, and we talk about this all the time in the Substack space about an author's track. Now, I didn't have bad sales. My novels actually did sell quite well. The series did. But I wonder about that experience. Everybody in publishing kind of knew about that collaboration. So I wonder
Yeah.
about that. So I don't really know. I can't look into the heads of editors. I do know I've gotten that note before, something like that, similar. So it didn't sell.
So okay, so yeah, so that one didn't sell, and then I know that yeah, you published with a cozy mystery indie press, right?
That is right. It was called Henry, but they actually did women's fiction too. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
don't have any I've never written a mystery, but they had this fiction, women's fiction division, and I was part of it. I just happened to meet her at a book festival, and I was sort of telling my tale of woe to an author, and she said, "Well, I want to read this novel." And so I sent it to her, and she read it like in 2 days and wanted to publish it. She also wanted, I got all my backlist back, and she wanted to publish my backlist. And
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Did you still have your agent at that point, and did you do it through your agent, or did you kind of do it on your own?
My after the thesis novel didn't sell, we parted ways. That
Oh
age.
my gosh, so that you're
Yeah.
already up to having broken up with three agents at this
That's
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Wow.
I mean
Oh
that
my
was a
gosh.
mutual kind of thing. It was really nice. And she was I don't think agency was for her. She's not even doing it now. So no,
Hmm.
that was strictly me. And I have to tell you, I loved that experience. It was great. I didn't know what to expect, but the attention was wonderful. The transparency was fabulous. I think
Mm.
we got royalty statements every 3 months, where in with the big five, this might be different now, but it's only every 6 months or so. And with Simon & Schuster, I had no idea how the novel was doing. I thought I was
Mm.
tanking. I really thought I was, I thought it was all going bad. And then this huge royalty check comes into my mailbox. Nobody was telling me that, you know what I mean? And maybe I guess I was afraid to ask, honestly. Is it doing terrible? Who want so you just don't you avoid the question, I guess.
Right,
So,
right.
but with this publisher, I felt like, oh, I can talk to them. I could actually pick up the phone and talk to the publisher on the phone, and we would chat, and if I didn't like a cover, it was fine, and that kind of thing. So I was very happy with them, and I was with them for well, let's see, I did two new books with them in my backlist. 6 books. But here's the problem with that kind of publisher is they went under. So,
Mm. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it really is, such a like, there's pros and cons to everything. And yeah, like you said, you're like, feel comfortable calling them up. You're not bothering them. You can talk directly to them, but, they don't have as big of a reach. They don't have a cushion, if books don't sell that year or whatever. So
Yeah, there's no backlist. The
yeah.
reason publishers, big publishers get by is they have this huge backlist that they make money on. And so there is a cushion, you're right. They did not have that, but they did a great job for the time that they did it. I mean,
Hmm.
really professional covers, lots of good marketing, but it's a tough row.
And were they able to get your books into bookstores, or was that a little harder?
They could, yeah, and they actually they were good about if you wanted it in a particular store. But now, don't get me wrong. I mean, like in with my bottom dollar girl books, they were in every bookstore. They were on
Right.
the front tables and all of that kind of stuff. That is not what happened with Henry. But for me, that was okay because I
Hmm.
already experienced that. I had that feeling of going into a bookstore and there are my books and all of that. So I was fine with that. It was they focused a lot on ebooks.
Mm, hmm.
And they knew how to move them too. I made a nice bit of money with them. So,
Yeah, and I have to say the nice thing about ebooks, because this is what happened when I was preparing for the interview and I was reading about Pitch Queen or the Pitch Queen, and I was like, "Ooh, this sounds like the novel I want to read." Yoink, and then immediately it's on my e-reader. I don't even have to like wait for it to come in the mail. I don't have to go to the bookstore. So there is, some benefits to selling through the ebook. But then I know for a lot of authors it is that dream to go into the bookstore and see your book on the shelf.
Oh yeah, and I would never deny anybody. It's really powerful, to go like you go out of town and there's your book. It's fun. There's no doubt about that.
Well, so what happened? So after your publisher went under and you were like, "Oh my gosh, okay, now now what? Where did you go from there?"
I guess we can move on to the fourth agent. I
Yeah,
did
yeah,
have
let's
another.
move it along.
I did have another manuscript that I went on sub with. And this was just before the pandemic, okay? And it was after the pandemic, I feel like everything changed. And the submission experience was normal. Editors getting back to us. But that's when I learned things like about track. Like I had an editor say, she hasn't been around for a while. We'd have to
Mm,
rebuild her. I don't see this as her breakout book and things like that. I
mm,
also learned that Southern was kind of not PC for a while, okay? Nobody wanted light Southern at all because Southern wasn't very popular. You have to put the context of when it was and all of that kind of
mm-hmm.
stuff. So some people were frank about that. So in the meantime, I was writing another novel. I revised that novel so many times. We got very close, but no cigar, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had another novel and I sent it to my agent. She said, I don't like it. And she fired me on my birthday.
Oh, oh my
She
gosh.
didn't know it was my birthday, but still, yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. Well, okay, wait, I want to just ask a quick question. Do you feel like Southern fiction is still a genre, or is this something that books are not being called Southern fiction anymore?
Oh no, I think it is. I
It
think
is.
it's
Okay.
still a genre and it's coming back.
Okay.
We just had this time where it was certain books just were not flying, okay?
Well, like we said, I mean, the timing is such a huge factor in whether or
Yeah.
not you get a book deal. So, yeah. Okay. Well, so, oh my gosh. So, agent number four broke up with you, which is, I have to say, this whole story is making me feel like really grateful for my current agent, who is amazing and is like, we've had several novels die in submission. She's still like my number one champion. I did write a novel a year or two ago where she read it and she's like, I don't love it. But she didn't
Hmm.
fire me. She was just like, what else you got? What other ideas you got? Or like make this one better. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so it really goes to show like not all agents are created equal for sure.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So then, well, how did you feel at that point? I mean, were you feeling like totally depressed? Were you just like move along?
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought it was awful. I did. But I had been in this business a long time, so I have a pretty tough skin. And also
Hmm.
I had that novel and I found another agent pretty quickly, okay?
Okay,
The one
okay.
that she said, this was her feedback to me. I don't like the writing. I mean, you know.
Wow. Well, there's not much you can do there.
Whoa, okay. Let's get personal. But while that was on submission, I had a friend who kept saying to me, you need to get your books out there, okay? You have the rights to them. Why don't you get them out there? And it just sounded like such a big pain.
Yeah.
So finally I just said, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I did it in the most unprofessional way. I made my own covers. I just put them up on Amazon. I didn't even have print covers. Okay. I mean, I didn't even have print editions because that's more complicated to do.
Mm-hmm.
And they were only on Amazon, right? So I did that and I really didn't think much of it, but I did a couple little Facebook ads and I think my third month in, I was having $5,000 months.
Wow. Okay. Sounds pretty good.
So I was like, oh my gosh, there's something to this.
Right.
And
Yeah.
now I will say I had an advantage because I already had the Amazon reviews. Those could transfer over
Mm,
from the Simon and Schuster and all of that. And there was some name recognition among those type of people. So I thought, wow, I can see how why people really like this.
yeah. And
And
all that money is going to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I enjoyed that for a long time and I did it. And what happened with I died on sub with that novel, and it was a whole year on sub. And we heard back from two editors a whole year.
Wow.
So I
Wow.
said, and that also, of course, made me think, why am I doing this? Why am I
Yeah.
putting myself through that? And it also made me decide to investigate this. That's why I did Picture Novels Substack. So I got more professional, learned more about the covers and things like that, and I published that one that I couldn't sell, and then I didn't really even try with Pitch Queen. I I had agents want to read it a few, but they're like, I will never be able to sell this to traditional publishing because of the nature of it. It's too inside baseball. So, and I enjoyed that. It's been fun, and I learn a lot about marketing, which I try to pass on the Substack because I really know how to abbreviate my book so readers, the pitch or whatever, will want to click on it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
When you
Mhm.
sell it yourself, you really understand what works.
Well, I thought it was fantastic. Like your pitch for the book, The Pitch Queen, which is all about an agent who is awesome at pitching books. Like your pitch of Yellowface meets book reads, or, I was like, yep, I'm in. Don't need anything else but that one line. I'm buying it now. So clearly it worked on me. Do you ever like coach other writers on like they're trying to figure out how to pitch their book and you help them figure out
Oh,
their pitch?
yes. Oh,
Okay.
yes. And that was another reason I love the Substack. People do not know how to pitch their work. And I'm a member of WFWA, which is the
Hmm.
Women Fictions Writers Association, and I do a lot of judging of contests and things, and they have to have a pitch. And you read this beautiful writing, and the pitch just is terrible. They have no conception of how to pitch. Most people like to lead with themes like,
Yep.
oh, this is a family-centered drama or something. But that you don't lead with themes. You always lead with what the character's up to and the stakes
Right.
and the antagonist and so on. So,
I do query critiques on my Substack, and I always am like, I need to stop doing these query critiques because I always say the same thing, which is be more specific and stop leading with themes because you're exactly right. They'll say, this is a story about grief and a woman who loses it all and then finds herself. And I'm like, this could literally be about anything. Like, I
yes.
am not interested because it's so vague. Get specific. Yeah, and I think it's the same thing. Like writers just don't often know how to pitch their own work in that specific, concise way that is going to make an agent or an editor or a reader be like, "Ooh, I want to read that."
It's really, don't you think it's a learning curve with the query letters? I mean,
Oh, for sure.
I also critique too, but I only take on a very few. So it's not me saying, "Oh, I want your business." It's me saying, "You need help because I'm going to tell you, hardly any writer knows how to do this well."
And I almost feel like I still struggle writing the query letter summary for my own novels. I'm very happy now that with my third novel that went out on submission, my agent did it for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, you did an
Oh, yeah,
amazing
there you
job.
go.
I could have never come up with this. So, yeah, because it is really hard to look at your own work, especially from that lens, I think.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to go back and ask you something. So you were on sub with your fifth agent, and then you were like, I need to start self-publishing. Did you start self-publishing while still having an agent?
Yes. Yeah. And she was okay with that. I had asked her about it and she was fine with that.
Okay.
She had no
You're
problem.
so you're the second person who said that, and that's so interesting to me because I did always feel like, oh, well, if you have an agent, you can't really self-publish, but obviously it's not a like black and white situation.
They can sometimes sell your audio rights
Yeah,
and
that's exactly. Yeah, Cynthia Swanson, that's exactly what
yes, I remember that now.
she
Yeah.
said her agent sold the audio rights and she self-published. Yeah. So, okay, so now you've self-published a couple of books, most recently The Pitch Queen, and you feel like you stepped it up and I guess I want to know what are some of the things you've learned about self-publishing or some of the things you're doing differently now, and it could also be in the marketing category as well.
Oh gosh. I haven't gotten really good at it. Let's put it that way. I mean, some people are really professional about it. And what I've discovered, I guess I could say, is that I really don't want to, I don't like it that much. It's just so too much.
Hmm.
So probably I'll continue to either look for a smaller publisher or a traditional publisher. But I will say there is a big learning curve, but if you're willing to pay people for certain things, it makes it easier. And I think this is why a lot of people are attracted to hybrid publishing because they will take care of all of those things for you. But I do enjoy making sure the cover is exactly how I want it. I enjoy writing the description exactly
Hmm.
how I want it. That type of thing is fun. And also, I've gotten very, very good at Facebook ads. That's fun too. I like the Canva part of it and everything. If anyone out there wants to try self-publishing, I would definitely say, join a group. There's all kinds of big self-publishing groups for writers and go to some of those conferences. And there's so much information out there now.
That to me is what's the overwhelming part is not only there's a huge learning curve, but there's so much information. It's like, where do you even start? So I
Yeah,
can see how, like a hybrid press where you still get to make decisions, but they are kind of like, here, we can set you up with this editor, we can set you up with this cover art designer, we can help you with the formatting, is like, oh, thank goodness. I don't have to make every single decision myself, you know?
right. And if anybody's ever thinking about it, there's two really big resources that you can go to that can give you all the good answers. And Joanna Penn is one of those people. She has a major site about all of these things, and she's great
I'm
at
going to
what
write
she
that
does.
down. Joanna Penn.
And it's Penn with two N's.
I feel like I've heard of that, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, she is
And she gives
amazing.
advice about self-publishing.
Everything. I mean, every aspect of
Mm.
it. She has a searchable site and all of that. And another one is Kindlepreneur, like entrepreneur
Oh,
and
okay.
Kindle
Hmm.
together. So those two, I mean, you can find everything pretty much that you need. And then there's some Facebook pages for self-published authors, but it's tough.
And it's an investment too, because like you said, if you do want to do it, do it right, and you have to hire somebody to help you with this and hire somebody to help you with that, then it can be, and doing the ads, it can be an investment too.
Right. And you can also do a cafeteria approach. You could say, okay, I'm going to get my cover artist, I'm going to get my formatter and all of that stuff instead of, putting it all in one place because that's probably more cost effective. But you know what I love about it? It's an option, right? It's an
Hmm.
option. I love that. It's like you've got this book, you want to get it out there. That when I first started this, it was so stigmatized, that, oh my gosh, oh, you did not want to do it.
Yeah, yeah,
But now
yeah.
that's not true. And so it is definitely an option for people. And these people that do it, they are so good at it. And I will say this, people who self-publish and are very good at it make more money than trad authors, a lot.
Yeah, I think that can definitely be true. Yeah.
It is. One of my friends who's taught me a lot had one book and it was she made seven figures on that one book, so I mean she had a lot that came before it, but yeah. So it is
Yeah.
people that how people are always saying, "Oh, traditional authors, they can't make a living very much." Indie authors are not saying that. They can if they do it well, but it takes a
Mm.
lot of and I'm not sure that I want to put myself out like that. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess you said you're hoping to kind of go back to an indie press or maybe traditional Big Five as your next step. Is that the goal?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you don't want to say, but do you have something you're working on right now, or like what's
Oh, yeah, I have a book that's finished, all right?
okay?
And in the Substack, I am going to actually, and I'm a little nervous about this, quite frankly, but I'm going to put it out there and I'm going to say, okay, people, I'm going to query this. And
Oh,
I'm
that's
going to tell you what's happening. I'm a little nervous about it because I know I've been out there. It is tough. Even for me, I have all this experience and everything, and I have a platform. Like I have a big Facebook page and all of that. But I am still very nervous about that because I know that I'm going to get rejected like heck and I'm going to have to report that.
Yeah. Oh, but see, I think, being vulnerable and being transparent, like people
Yeah.
want that. So
Yeah.
I would imagine that your Substack followers, me included, will be very interested to see
Ooh.
to watch your progress. I mean, you have done it all. You've had the big splashy debut with Simon and Schuster. You've done the small press. You've done self-publishing. What is something that really surprised you on this whole journey? And it can be something good or something bad, or you can give me one of each.
Okay. Oh, I know what surprised me. I honestly thought that once you were in publishing, you were in. And I'll never forget this. I was at a panel, a book festival panel. Afterwards, an author came up to me and she goes, "You know that girl that we were talking with on the panel? Um, she is not going to get another contract." And I said, "Why? Why do you say that?" And she said, "Oh, her Amazon ranking is in the 300s." And I said, "Well, yeah, but I mean, surely they'll support her through the next book." And she goes, "No, that's not how it works." And I was so shocked by that. I mean, I really thought that once you were in the club, you were in. And you know what? And I hate to say this, but it made me not enjoy the rest of the time. I always felt like the wolves were at my door all
Mm,
the time. So, I wish I'd enjoyed it more. But I think that's in some ways, unfortunately, it is true. If you have,
yeah.
it depends on how bad the failure is. If the publisher pays six figures and you make, and this happens all the time, six figures and the author sells 300 copies.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause I have like a little book scan thing and I look at certain debuts sometimes and it just breaks my heart. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's going to be a hard track to overcome.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's why you really need, first of all, you need an agent who is like believes in you and will stick with you even when
Yes.
you do have a book that bombs,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, yeah. And there are agents that will, I'll tell you, they'll say, okay, we're going to do a pen name or we're going to reinvent you. And I'm going to tell you, I think that is probably one of the best ways to succeed in this business is to have a great agent. And I'm so glad you do.
Yeah, I am so happy. Well, it's funny because my first agent was a very powerful agent who I was afraid of, and I was like
Yeah.
afraid of like bothering. Turned out he was not at least the right agent for me, and I feel like my second agent I lucked out with her, so she's great. But yeah, as if writers didn't have more ways to feel neurotic, but like, yeah, that like fear of, oh gosh, if I
Oh my
don't sell enough
gosh. Yeah.
copies and then I'm not going to get another book deal. And oh, it is a hard road. Even as you know, even once you get the book deal, the road doesn't get any easier or it doesn't get much easier, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
and I like to talk about that. I like to talk about in the Substack, I really like to talk about how to stay published because that's a trick, you know.
Yeah.
Having been in the business for over 20 years, I see the ones that have lasted. You know what I mean? Friends that I had met and now they're bestsellers and so on. But they went at every author that you see that is selling a lot of books something has happened. They've had some kind of setback. They've had to reinvent themselves in some way. This is a tough business, and you just have to persevere.
Would you say, just thinking of the people that you know and maybe yourself too, who have stayed in it for a long time, besides perseverance, is there any other like quality or thing that you see people doing?
Reinvention.
Reinvention.
Constant. I mean, and
Yeah.
it's happening all the time. I follow all these authors. There's a historical author right now, and I can't remember exactly who it is, but she is reinventing herself as romantasy. She just sold a book with romantasy. And I never say, oh, well, follow trends. You shouldn't do that, but you have to be able to pivot. And they do. They do it
Right.
all the time.
Yeah.
They pivot a little bit. Lisa Jewell, who writes thrillers, are you familiar? She used to be a chick lit writer.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and I was saying to somebody too, Emily Henry started out as a YA author and then
Yes,
and then nobody ever talks about her YA books.
right.
And I think a lot of people think oh, her debut was, her romance, her first romance novel, but it was not. So, yeah. Okay, well, you've already given us a lot of advice. I also hope that everyone goes to your Substack because you've got tons of great stuff on there. Such a treasure trove. But do you want to leave us with one parting piece of advice about, it can be about writing, it can be about publishing, it can be about pitching, maybe?
Okay, and we touched a little bit on this, but I strongly believe in pitching your book before you write it, all right? So imagine that you have to sell it before you write it. So come up with that one sentence pitch and also write a query letter because when you do that, you're going to say, hey, it'll make you think, oh, I need more obstacles here, or maybe I'm going in the wrong direction with this. As you know, because you critique queries all the time, sometimes the reason authors have such problems with queries is because they don't have the right elements in their novels. All right.
Hmm.
So we can't pitch something that doesn't have the right storytelling elements. So that's what I would suggest. I think I do it all the time. I have a one sentence pitch. I have a query letter, and I also do a Facebook ad because because I think, how would I sell this to readers? Because that's
Yeah.
how the publisher is thinking. How can this be distilled into a message that a reader will say, I really want to read this book?
I think that is a fantastic piece of advice because you're right. If you write the query letter for the book, it's going to have, the main character, the main conflict, the main obstacles, the stakes. So often I read query letters where I'm like, why should we care? You know?
Yes.
So yeah, if you write the query, then I mean, it's almost like a little mini outline. And then you've got the key ingredients.
And it's like your mission statement for the novel. Sometimes we get in the weeds, and we're just like all over here. And then you look at, oh, this is why I'm writing the novel, and this is what it's
Yeah.
supposed to be about.
Yeah, and this is where it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I love it. Well, I am so happy. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to ask you while you're here, but it's just so great to talk to you. And your Substack is great. Like I said, I'm going to read all your other novels now, and I'm so happy you could be here with us.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I've just enjoyed connecting with you so much on Substack. So,
I'm
yeah.
sure I will see you there soon.
Oh, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Thanks so much for listening to The Long Road to Publishing. All the books we discuss on the podcast can be found at my bookshop shop, the link for which is in the show notes. You can find me online on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Substack with the handle Eva Langston. Even better, subscribe to my newsletter for writers at evalangston.substack.com and feel free to send me an email. The podcast address is longroad.pub@gmail.com. The Long Road to Publishing is produced and edited by me, Eva Langston, and the intro-outro music comes from the artist's sound roll on Upbeat. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the show, and I'll be back soon with more publishing stories and more tips for the road.